All right, let's read Rambler number 12 for Tuesday, May 1st, 1750. The title being The Duty of Secrecy, the Invalidity of All Excuses for Betraying Secrets. It starts off with a little Latin. Communisque tegas et vino tortus et ira, Horace. And then a little English quote. And let not wine or anger wrest the entrusted secret from your breast. By Francis. It is related by Quintus Curtius that the Persians always conceived an invincible contempt of a man who had violated the laws of secrecy, for they thought that, however he might be deficient in the qualities requisite to actual excellence, the negative virtues at least were in his power, and though he perhaps could not speak well if he was to try, it was still easy for him not to speak. In forming this opinion of the easiness of secrecy, they seem to have considered it as opposed not to treachery, but loquacity, and to have conceived the man whom they thus censured, not frighted by menaces to reveal, or bribed by promises to betray, but incited by the mere pleasure of talking, of some other motive equally trifling, to lay open his heart without reflection, and to let whatever he knew slip from him, only for want of power to retain it. Whether, by their settled and avowed scorn of thoughtless talkers, the Persians were able to diffuse to any great extent the virtue of taciturnity, we are hindered by the distance of those times from being able to discover, there being very few memoirs remaining of the court of Persepolis, nor any distinct accounts handed down to us of their office clerks, their ladies of the bedchamber, their attorneys, their chambermaids, or their footmen. In these latter ages, though the old animosity against the prattler is still retained, it appears wholly to have lost its effect upon the conduct of mankind. For secrets are so seldom kept that it may with some reason be doubted whether the ancients were not mistaken in their first postulate, whether the quality of retention be so generally bestowed, and whether a secret has not some subtle volatility by which it escapes imperceptibly at the smallest vent, or some power of fermentation by which it expands itself so as to burst the heart that will not give it way. Those that study either the body or the mind of man very often find the most specious and pleasing theory falling under the weight of contrary experience. And instead of gratifying their vanity by inferring effects from causes, they are always reduced at last to conjecture causes from effects. That it is easy to be secret, the speculatist can demonstrate in his retreat, and therefore thinks himself justified in placing confidence. The man of the world knows that, whether difficult or not, it is uncommon, and therefore finds himself rather inclined to search after the reason of this universal failure in one of the most important duties of society. The vanity of being known to be trusted with a secret is generally one of the chief motives to disclose it. For, however absurd it may be thought to boast an honor by an act which shows that it was conferred without merit, yet most men seem rather inclined to confess the want of virtue than the importance, and more willingly show their influence, though at the expense of their probity, than glide through life with no other pleasure than the private conscientiousness of fidelity, which, while it is preserved, must be without praise, except from the single person who tries and knows it. There are many ways of telling a secret by which a man exempts himself from the reproaches of his conscience and gratifies his pride without suffering himself to believe that he impairs his virtue. He tells the private affairs of his patron or his friend only to those from whom he would not conceal his own. He tells them to those who have no temptation to betray the trust, or with denunciation of a certain forfeiture of his friendship, if he discovers that they become public. Secrets are very frequently told in the first ardor of kindness or of love, for the sake of proving, by so important a sacrifice, sincerity of tenderness. But with this motive, though it be strong in itself, vanity concurs, since every man desires to be most esteemed by those whom he loves, or with whom he converses, with whom he passes his hours of pleasure, and to whom he retires from business and from care. When the discovery of secrets is under consideration, there is always a distinction carefully to be made between our own and those of another. Those of which we are fully masters, as they affect only our own interest, and those which are reposited with us in trust, and involve the happiness or convenience of such as we have no right to expose to hazard. To tell our own secrets is generally folly, but the folly is without guilt. To communicate those with which we are entrusted is always treachery, and treachery for the most part combined with folly. There have indeed been some enthusiastic and irrational zealots for friendship, who have maintained and perhaps believed that one friend has a right to all that is in the possession of another, and that therefore it is a violation of kindness to exempt any secret from this boundless confidence. According to late female Minister of State, this would be a footnote to Sarah, Duchess of Marlborough, has been shameless enough to inform the world that she used, when she wanted to extract anything from her sovereign, to remind her of Montague's reasoning, who has determined that to tell a secret to a friend is no breach of fidelity, because the number of persons trusted is not multiplied, a man and his friend being virtually the same. That such a fallacy could be imposed upon any human understanding, or that an author could have advanced a position so remote from truth and reason any other way than as a declaimer to show to what extent he could stretch his imagination and with what strength he could press his principle, would scarcely have been creditable, had not this lady kindly shown us how far weakness may be deluded, or indolence amused. But since it appears that even this sophistry has been able, with the help of a strong desire to repose in quiet upon the understanding of another, to mislead honest intentions, and an understanding not contemptible, and there's a footnote, that of Queen Anne, it may not be superfluous to remark that those things which are common among friends are only such as either possess in his own right, and can alienate or destroy without injury to any other person. Without this limitation, confidence must run on without end. The second person may tell the secret to the third, upon the same principle as he received it from the first, and the third may hand it forward to a fourth, till at last it is told in the round of friendship to them from whom it was the first intention to conceal it. The confidence which Caius has of the faithfulness of Tydeus is nothing more than an opinion which himself cannot know to be true, and which Claudius, who first tells his secret to Caius may know to be false, and therefore the trust is transferred by Caius if he reveals what has been told him to one whom the person originally conceived would have withheld it, and whatever may be the events. Caius has hazarded the happiness of his friend without necessity and without permission, and has put that trust in the hand of fortune, which was given only to virtue. All the arguments upon which a man who is telling the private affairs of another may ground his confidence of security, he must upon reflection know to be uncertain, because he finds them without effect upon himself. When he is imagining that Titius will be cautious from a regard to his interest, his reputation, or his duty, he ought to reflect that he is himself at that instant acting in opposition to all these reasons, and revealing what interest, reputation, and duty direct him to conceal. Everyone feels that it is his own case he should consider, that man incapable of trust, who believed himself at liberty to tell whatever he knew to the first whom he should conclude deserving of his confidence. Therefore, Caius, in admitting Titius to the affairs imparted only to himself, must know that he violates his faith, since he acts contrary to the intention of Claudius, to whom that faith was given. For promises of friendship are, like all others, useless and vain, unless they are made in some known sense, adjusted and acknowledged by both parties. I am not ignorant that many questions may be started relating to the duty of secrecy, where the affairs of public concern, where subsequent reasons may arise to alter the appearance and nature of the trust. But the manner in which the secret was told may change the degree of obligation, and that the principles upon which a man is chosen for a confidant may not always equally constrain him. But these scruples, if not too intricate, are of too extensive consideration for my present purpose, nor are they such as generally occur in common life. And though casuistical knowledge be useful in proper hands, yet it ought by no means to be carelessly exposed, since most will use it rather to lull than to awaken their own conscience. And the threads of reasoning on which truth is suspended are frequently drawn to such subtlety that common eyes cannot perceive and common sensibility cannot feel them. The whole doctrine, as well as practice of secrecy, is so perplexing and dangerous that next to him who is compelled to trust, I think him unhappy who is chosen to be trusted, for he is often involved in scruples without the liberty of calling in the help of any other understanding. He was frequently drawn into guilt under the appearance of friendship and honesty, and sometimes subjected to suspicion by the treachery of others who are engaged without his knowledge in the same schemes. For he that has one confidant has generally more, and when he is at last betrayed, is in doubt on whom he shall fix the crimes. The rules, therefore, that I shall propose concerning secrecy, and from which I think it not safe to deviate without long and exact deliberation, are: never to solicit the knowledge of a secret, nor willingly, nor without many limitations, to accept such confidence when it is offered. When a secret is once admitted, to consider the trust as of a very high nature, important as society, and sacred as truth, and therefore not to be violated by any incidental convenience or slight appearance of contrary fitness. Wow, that's a powerful one. I must admit I'm guilty of everything that he described there, of of using the fact of a secret to impart a sense of confidence in the person who I'm talking to let them know that we are close. I will trust you with a secret, and or to do so in order to make a friend, or to do so to share, thinking that I love the one, thinking that person is as myself, right? Because they're so close to me, they're so friend that it's no different than sharing it with myself, who then shares it with somebody else, being differences between each of us until eventually the secret makes the rounds of everybody. And then not realizing that in so doing, I'm giving up my virtue in that process. I'm selling it short. I'm selling it out in order to gain confidence, closeness, and a secret sensation of joy in such sharing. And I like the way Dr. Johnson, right at the end here, gives us two guidelines. One, regarding secrets. One, never to solicit the knowledge of a secret. Never to try to pull it out of somebody. Nor willingly, nor without limitations, to accept such confidence when it is offered, and not to be willingly engaging when it's proffered. It's kind of the same thing. One is to try to extract it out of somebody, or to engage it once it's proffered. And then the second one is when a secret is once admitted, to consider the trust of a very high nature important as society and sacred as truth, and therefore not to be violated by any incidental convenience or slight appearance of contrary fitness. So well put, Dr. Johnson, but to see it as indeed, its truth as a sacred thing, so to speak. Very nice. Thanks for joining.